So I want to talk about the feeling, the euphoria that you get when you discover something new. And I think it's a lot more important that that is our objective than performance metrics and all that kind of stuff that we might go through in science or within, entrepreneurship or innovation or anything like that. Really, you really need to focus on the fact that you are doing something for the sheer joy of it and forget about everything else that it is sort of layered on top of it or the external world wants you to think about. All of that stuff is really not representative of what the actual process is when you're doing something about discovery, search and discovery. It's really actually about that euphoria that you feel after you've worked at something and you come up with a new discovery. And whether it is just a discovery that you have or you and your colleagues have or co-authors or whatever, or simply just the fact that you read something interesting and you're excited about it, I think that is the more important thing that we need to focus on in this world than the metrics, the external performance, objectives, and all of those things. And I think it's very critically important for us to get these priorities straight in this world. So if you don't know me, I am Professor Dave Massack. I'm an associate professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There's so many people that help me out that I want to pay the favor forward to help you out as much as I possibly can. So performance metrics are, um, I think they are absolutely the wrong way of treating things that are important in your life. I mean, think about this, right? Like, I've used this analogy a lot in the classroom and and beyond. So, we could view relationships in our life in terms of these performance metrics that we sort of stress, right? That performance metrics in science might be counting the number of publications that you have, how many citations that you have, how many books that you have, how many grants you have, and all those kind of things. In the sort of bigger, broader worlds of business, it might be how many sales you have, your revenue numbers, your profitability, your customer acquisition costs, all those kind of things. And we could measure our relationships in those terms. So I'm talking about your direct, real life relationships, like your relationship with your spouse, or your relationship with your significant other, or your relationship with your brother or your sister or your parents or your grandparents. We can easily do that. And we can count the number of hugs that we give, or count the number of kisses that we give, or count the number of times that you say, I love you, or count the number of times that you smile at somebody. And that is a really good sort of indicator, performance indicator of what the love relationship looks like. But we don't, because we know it is absolutely ridiculous. We know it's a lot more stronger of a thing than that. In fact, social networks try to replicate a lot of those feelings, and they can't do it. It's harder to do that than one could imagine. I mean, Facebook has tried this for 20 years at this point, to try to build a relationship with other people where you feel a really strong connection and you have that affection with those people. And yes, we do see those instances where people build a connection with people on social networks and all those kind of things. But we know that there's something else that is more important behind it that we can't necessarily measure. And there's very little metrics behind it. Why is that we have that? Is that there's tacit, what's called tacit knowledge. There's things that are difficult to capture in metrics. And even if we do capture those things, they seem absurd because that is far from what our actual life is about. And it's almost not only absurd but immoral, or it's considered a bad if we do that. I couldn't imagine going around to my wife and my kids and tallying up the number of kisses or the number of hugs that I do on a daily basis. That makes no sense. It is really irrelevant to the whole, to what that relationship means. And so that's where I want you to think about with doing things in this world, um, that matter and that you care about. It's not about counting things. That's not, the bean counting perspective on life. It, it is so hollow and so meaningless that if metrics don't go the right way, or you have a bad couple of years, then you say, well, this relationship or this thing is not worth it, and it's problematic and we should quit it because I'm not getting enough kisses. Um, all of those things are so important to recognize that we need to do things because we're 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 in love, or we enjoy just being part of something, and getting to that point where you understand that it's not about the metrics, it's not about the numbers. And I've never actually been like that. I've actually railed very strongly about that in science my whole time that I've been in science, ever since I was a first year graduate student. And I think the reason is I came from such a loving family that um, we couldn't fathom thinking about that. We were never really like well off in any sort of way, but we were okay. We lived a good life. My parents had a good life, um, and there was five of us kids, six if you count my sister who passed away when I was much younger. And there was five of us, and we had a single income. My dad was the one that was only working as a in a pulp and paper mill as an operator, and we got by. And it wasn't because we were counting the metrics and we weren't looking at the number of houses that we had, or the cars that we owned, or the we lived in Canada, the snow machines that we had, the fastest sort of snow machines. And we know that we did it because our family was close, and yet we fought, and it was a disaster in a lot of ways, but our family was close because we just loved each other. We loved what we were doing. And that's where the careers that we choose and the things that we choose that we are going to do have to get to that point where it doesn't matter about the metrics. I look back and I think, if we would have counted metrics, if my parents would have counted metrics in our family, there was a number of times that they probably would have gotten a divorce. They probably would have disowned their kids from various different ways, various different things that we have done. Um, we would have been considered outcasts, but that's not what you do. You do it because you love the process. You really, truly love it. It's not about metrics. It's not about the the having the perfect things all fit together, but it's really just you do it because that is not only the right thing to do, like morally the right thing to do, but because that's how you live a good life. And that is how you realize that there's things that are bigger than you. And that is how you realize that Every day doesn't have to be a perfect performance day, but it is the thing that you do to get by, and the thing that you actually are rewarded for. So, coming back to the idea that, we should do things because of performance metrics in our careers, whether that being in science or business, entrepreneurship, whatever career that you are thinking of or that you're part of. Remember that those performance metrics are arbitrary and people assign to them after the fact that something else happens to determine and sort out who's good and who's bad. And those performance metrics go up and down, they go sideways and around, and they really don't have a strong basis indicator of what is truth, what is beauty, what is why you actually do things in this world. Those things are hard to get at. Those are fundamentally difficult to get at. And I don't think we'll ever have metrics that will get at that will be able to tell me explicitly that I love my life, or I love what I do. I love the discovery. I love that eureka moment that happens, that it's going to be the one-off thing that I feel that nobody else feels. So before you start thinking about measuring things, think about what you want to happen when you measure those things. Think about what matters in your life. And if it's the metrics give you some sort of insight, those performance indicators give you some sort of insight in terms of what matters, well, then that's great. But generally, they don't. What matters is the fact that you get up, you enjoy what you do, you love other people, and you smile. And that's it. So if you love this podcast, leave a comment. But, I don't do it because of you. I do it because of me. And I like talking to you. All right. Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.